Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. So tonight I picked out my 10 favorite album covers.
Good idea, but I'm only gonna do 5. Greetings, y'all. Welcome to another video, and today we are doing another special episode. Another special episode. Can you believe it? I did one pretty recently that was in response to a thread about 5 overplayed songs that I still love. And I really kind of enjoyed doing that, and people kind of enjoyed that, I guess. And that was maybe the second or third one of those kinds of videos I'd ever done. But I enjoyed that so much that I decided to do another one. Here we are. My friend over at The Mind's Eye, which I highly recommend you go check out his videos. He's got lots of great videos on there. I'll put a link below. But just a couple of days ago, he did a video, a topic that I'm sure a lot of people have done, but it just never occurred to me to do one of these videos like that until I saw his video. But it's about the 5 favorite album covers of all time. Pretty good topic, right? And so I just decided to do one, and I'm kind of giving him credit because he's the one who kind of inspired me to do this video. So the kind of rules that he had put in place, I'm going to use as well. These are only albums that I own. They're not albums, that are famed. People love these album covers. Where's this one? Where's that one? Well, either I don't like it or I don't own it. But these are just ones that I own, and only one per artist. So you're not going to have here's another one by this artist. Here's another one by this artist. So there's only 5 in here. So you got to whittle it down somehow. So I thought those rules kind of applied and worked in this regard. So I'm going to use those as well. So we're going to get started now with the first one. Hopefully YouTube does not censor this, because I know that this album cover was censored somewhere. I don't remember where, but we're talking about Roxy Music and Country Life. I mean, if you're going to use beautiful women to promote your album, and Roxy Music certainly did not shy from that, can't beat this one. But it's such a, in my mind, it's such an iconic album cover and out of all those Roxy Music album covers that featured supermodels, this certainly was the one that stood out the most. Just a classic one. And whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's a cheap way to maybe sell some records. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. I'm just going to say this is one of my favorite album covers of all time, and leave it up to you to fill in maybe why. But this Brian Ferry, I guess, was the art director. I'm going to list on screen all the kind of people that were involved with the artwork on these albums, just to kind of give them credit. Eric Bowman was the photographer. I don't know if I should have probably looked up to see if the models' names were listed, but whatever. Nicholas DeVille was the designer, and the artwork, maybe for other parts of the records, was Bob Bokid, I believe his name was. But yeah, Roxy Music, Country Life, classic, iconic art on the cover art or whatever. I can speak. I'm flustered by this picture, I guess. Next up, we have. I kind of felt a little weird including this, but I had to include it because this band and this album featured in the last special episode that I just did. And I sort of didn't want to repeat it, but like I said, I could not include this because when I was a kid growing up, I loved this album artwork, and this is Asia's Alpha. This is by the infamous Roger Dean, who did tons of album cover artwork for Yes, and then jumped on over to Asia when they formed and I know he did like the first 3 Asia albums. After that, I don't know how much he was involved in any of their album covers beyond that. Maybe when they reunited years and years later, he maybe kind of came back to the fold. I'm not sure. But anyways, I always loved this artwork on this album cover specifically, to the point where I had, when I was, you know, a teenager, I had a poster of this, like a fuller version of this, as a poster hanging up on my wall. Feel free to goof on me, I don't care. Back then it wasn't so much of a goof as maybe it would be now. But yeah, it's really cool. This, I thought that this, when you fold out the booklet here, it would be like the full image, but it's actually not. If you look at the crease there, it's not. I almost feel like, well, not so much. I thought maybe this should be on this side, but my poster was this centered, and then there was more over here, more on that side, you know. But yeah, I just always really kind of just really liked his paintings for these records. You know, I even like the one album came after this, Astra, with the robot and all the purple and stuff. I remember really liking that one as well. But yeah, really cool artwork here. Roger Dean, Asia Alpha. Next up, we've got an album cover I always liked. This kind of goes back to one of those rules that the Mind's Eye set up about one album cover per artist, because there's a few by this artist and his previous band that I certainly could have put on this list. But, you know, when I'm just like, out of all the choices, what's the one I'm going to pick? It's Eat 'Em and Smile by David Lee Roth. Like I mentioned, I could have easily put 1984 or Fair Warning, or maybe even Skyscraper, but this one I think I'm going to go with. And this is, I just love this album cover. Thought it was really cool when it came out. This cannibal kind of makeup job here. Dave and his co-conspirator back in those days, Pete Angelus, came up with this concept. Richard Serini, whose name is very familiar to us Van Halen fans. I believe he was involved with a lot of their kind of like, maybe even like their tour kind of stuff and artwork and what have you. But, you know, he was around in that Van Halen camp and then with Dave as well. But I'm pretty sure he was with the Van Halen camp. But anyways, really loved this, you know, album artwork. Just kind of a cool concept, especially, you know, with what was going on between him and Van Halen at the time. It kind of, there's some little subtext, I believe, to the title and this album cover artwork. Raul Vega was the photographer, and I certainly have to give credit to the makeup artist, Joanne Gare, I believe is how I pronounce her last name. But yeah, just really cool, and I always like this. And it's funny, I remember my friend Gary. I was working at this video store, and my friend Gary called me up, who he and I, you know, we bonded over being Van Halen fans and David Lee Roth fans. And he called me up one day and he's like, you got to come outside. And I'm like, what for, man? And I said, just come in the store. He's like, no, I can't, got to come outside. And I go out there. This dude had his sister like try to do this makeup on his face. And it was like the goofiest thing I'd ever seen in my life. But yeah, it just always reminds me of that. And I think I even remember when I saw this tour, I remember like walking on the outside of the venue or whatever. And I think I remember seeing some girl came by and had all this stuff on her face and everything. It was kind of weird. But yeah, great album cover. Really cool. Like that one quite a bit. And oh, hey, I almost forgot. Here's the Spanish version of the album, Sonrisa Salvaje. That's for my buddy Darren Pelcherwith. So next up, similar to Asia, this was like another one, although I had the poster for Asia hanging up, this is one that I wish I had the poster hanging up. And this almost ties into the Roxy Music one in a way too. We've got from 1984, The Cars, Heartbeat City. This one folds out, and there's the full image. This is a painting that was done in the 70s by an artist named Peter Phillips. I hope this is all getting in on the screen. His original painting was called Artomatic Loop-de-Loop. And I always dug this. Like I said, I really wish I had been able to get a poster just to hang up. I don't know why they didn't put one out. I mean, back then in the 80s, there'd be like whole sections of posters that you could buy. And it's kind of weird that this did not exist in a poster. Maybe it did, and I just never found it. But yeah, I always dug this. And like this a lot. There's these weird images and everything. And I imagine a lot of people would look at this and go like, oh, that's so like the 80s or whatever. But then, you know, the painting came out in like 72 or something like that. And I looked up the artist. If it's still online, I'll put a link below. But I looked up a website or something that had a bunch of his other artwork, and there's a lot of stuff similar to this that's kind of cool and worth checking out. But I always dug this. I remember even like trying to draw like my own versions of something like this, kind of inspired by this, with different objects and everything flying around. But yeah, I always loved this album cover art, Heartbeat City by Peter Phillips, the artwork there. And then finally, we get kind of another artist that I probably could have picked a couple of different records from, or artwork from, but this is by far my favorite. This is The Who and Meaty Beady Big and Bouncy. I had this on cassette when I was a kid, and I used to play this like all day and night. I used to go play basketball in my driveway and just have this tape playing constantly. I always loved this artwork. You know, this is a great example of like artwork that kind of matches the album really well, because this album, I think the original title was The Who Looks Back, and then they changed it to the far more interesting and catchy Meaty Beady Big and Bouncy. But this album is kind of like a compilation of a bunch of the singles that weren't on albums and stuff like that, that The Who put out. And so it kind of really ties in. You got these kids who, you know, if you didn't know better, you'd think this was an old photo of The Who when they were kids hanging out on the stoop, and there's The Who looking out the window at them. But it's not. It's, you know, just posed and created to look that way, because if you flip it around, there's the kids from the stoop and there's The Who hanging out on the stoop. But yeah, just again, I think just it's a really cool album cover, and it really works with the concept of this being like a compilation of old songs by The Who, you know. Really wild. The art designers on this, Mike Shaw and Bill Kerbishley, who kind of started out doing all kinds of stuff for The Who, and then ultimately, I think to this day, he's still the manager of The Who. I'm pretty sure. I don't think he passed away. I'm pretty sure. I mean, but he eventually became the manager of The Who, and the photographer Graham Hughes on this record. But yeah, just always loved this artwork by The Who. So those are my 5. Those are the 5 favorite album covers for me. Some of you may disagree, and that's cool. By all means, please leave a comment below. Let me know what your favorite album covers are. You don't have to list 5. It could just be 1. It could be 10. It could be 100. Don't matter. But yeah, I'd love to see what some other people got on their list. And also, by all means, go check out the videos for The Mind's Eye, his videos, watch his original video on this topic. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you the next time. Later on, y'all.